Good morning, students. Let's see the little information of the lecture first. Moment we are reading, that's moments. And the chapter is A House is Not a Home. It is not edited, I think, then. Now it is okay. So, see, students, what we are going to do, we are going to just make this A House is Not a Home. This is going to lecture number 2. And we're going to start from the second para of the page. I think I'm quite audible to all of you. Now you just need to have a patience so that we can complete the chapter. If any one of you has got any problem or any sort of doubt you have, you just need to note it down in your notebook so that at the end, when you have a doubt clearing session there, you can ask. So what happened? The house started burning. Firefighters came and the narrator was kept back while his mother went in. And when she came back, his mother went back into the room, either into the house to fetch something from there. So what we got then, the one of the firemen hold the little boy, and what happened? The little boy tried to just get rid from his grip and wanted to go to save his mother, right? So what we got the next, she's going to be okay, said the fireman. The fireman said this to the boy that your mother is going to be okay. She just inhaled a little smoke and then she ran back. He ran back to fight the fire while my mother and I sat there. Like his mother was sitting beside him when the firefighter or fire person got her from the inside and she inhaled means like she got some smoke in her. Inhaled means like breath or took inside her body because of which she's having little problem in breathing. So if she takes oxygen, then she can just be okay. After saying this, the firefighter ran back to fight the fire, means to control over the fire, to curb the fire, while my mother and I sat there dazed. Means like the author is saying this, and my mother, we both were sitting there and just looking at what is happening there, that side. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. So author is saying the house was burning and the author and his mother both were just looking at it and they were unable to do anything, right? For 5 hours later, the fire was finally out. Our house was almost completely burned down. Now, what we get like 5 hours it took to burn the complete house. So after 5 hours, when they saw like it was completely burned down, right? But what happened there? It struck me. I hadn't seen my cat. Then he got a sort of jerk in his mind that he hasn't seen his cat around him, right? Where was my cat? Much to my horror, means felt very strange and terrified, scared basically. I realized that she was nowhere to be found, and he tried to find out everywhere but could not find it. Then all at once it hit me. All at once means all of a sudden hit me the new school, the fire, my cat. These are like sorts of ideas came in his mind. He thought all of a sudden about new school, about fire, then cat. I broke down in tears and he started crying. Tears were started flowing from his eyes and cried and cried. I was suffering loss big time. I was suffering loss big time. So this was a very tough time for him, like he was suffering from the loss that everything was lost from him. The firemen wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. That night completely the firemen did not let them go to that even place close by in that house basically. It was still too dangerous. dead or alive. For being living being, it was going to be very dangerous for them, like how they are going to treat this, how they are going to face, right, everyone? This was going to be very difficult for them. So what happened in that? I couldn't imagine living without knowing about my cat. This was going to be very difficult for the author students. He was attached mentally as well as you can say emotionally attached with the little cat. And he was not even thinking that he could live, he could imagine living without knowing about my cat, without knowing about my cat. Means he wanted to know about his cat, what happened to it, where it is, right? So these sorts of ideas or thought came in author's mind, which disturbed him, like not able he was not able to just live life properly. He was always thinking about his loss, his new school, his cat, every time. Regardless, I had to go. Regardless means, underline this word, students. It means like I had to go. Regardless means paying no attention, even if the situation is bad or there are difficulties. Regardless. Means without paying attention, I had to go. We piled into the car with just the clothes on our backs and a few of the firemen's blankets and made our way to my grandparents' house to spend the night. So what we get here? So without paying any sort of attention, like they had to go to somewhere else, and they collected all the things. Like here, we got like that's very important, students. We need to be a bit familiar about the words as we get here. So what we got here, like piled means like to put things one on top of another and to another. Like this collected the things, whatever they had, and in the car and the clothes or some other bags, whatever they had, or few firemen's blankets, like the blankets they had. They packed it up, they put it in the car, and made our way to my grandparents' house. And now they just plan to go to their grandparents' house to spend the night. How to like just they need to spend the night. For that, they plan to go to their grandparents' home, like author's grandparents, like grandfather, grandmother, right? The next day, Monday, I went to school. Now we see the scenario, students of the school. When the fire broke out, it was still wearing, I was still wearing the dress I had worn to church that morning, but I had no shoes. Now he was still wearing the dress of the school. He was supposed to go to school, but he is saying that he had worn to church that morning, but had no shoes. But he did not have shoes that time. Though dress he was wearing there, I had kicked them off when I was doing my homework. You see, what is he telling us? Like he kicked them off the shoe basically, opened them, took off them, and threw them basically, right? When he was just preparing for homework, which were given in the school, they became yet another casualty of the fire, and they also became the victims or the casualty of the fire. The fire broke out and they also burned out. So I had to borrow some tennis shoes from my aunt. The author is saying he did not have other shoes because all were burned. So he had to borrow these some shoes of tennis boots from his aunt. Why couldn't I just stay? Why couldn't I just stay home from school? So he was just planning like he should stay at home instead of going to school. Instead of going to school, my mother wouldn't hear of it. My mother wouldn't hear of it, but I was totally embarrassed by everything. My mother wouldn't hear of it. What does it mean by the shoes were sort of different? Like the author is saying, my mother would hear of it, nahi suna hoga uske bare mein, wouldn't have listened about it. But I was totally embarrassed by everything. Embarrassed means like feeling very shameful about himself, though it was not like this. But author was feeling embarrassed because he wasn't having anything to go to school. The clothes I was wearing looked weird, or like the clothes he was wearing of 2 days back he wore. Now he hasn't changed because he hasn't got anything. So what we get here, these were looking very weird. I had no books or homework. No books were there, no homework was there, and my backpack was gone. And the backpack means the bag he was having, which he used to hang on the back, that is also burned down. I had my life in that backpack. What is author saying here? He was having his life in the backpack, basically, right? Life was there means something he must be having. The more I try to fit in, the worse it got. Like the shoes we got, the tennis shoes, he was trying to fit it in out, but it was becoming a bit worse. Was I destined to be an outcast and a geek all my life? Was I destined to be an outcast? Destined referred like to the luck. And their outcast refers to like having some sort of geek all my life, like boring, not finishing or finalizing something different. It was all going to be boring. Means destined means his luck was giving some sorts of hints. That's what it felt like. And after just showing this scenario, after observing this scenario, that was having such a feeling. I didn't want to grow up, change, or have to handle life if it was going to be this way. So, what was it going to do? I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to grow up efforts to like. I didn't want to grow up means I didn't want to see sort of changes were taking place in the life. Author is saying this. He was thinking like this, and to handle life, it was going to be this way. Sorry, and it was not possible for him to handle like this. I just wanted to curl up and die. Curl up means like it is not possible to like just accept the thing as it was just coming for him further. He just wanted to leave the life. He wanted to leave means wanted to die. Don't want to live the life, basically. Didn't want to live the life, he wanted to leave the life. Right? Again, author is saying, I walked around school like a zombie. So see, students, you must have seen the movies basically. And some movies you have seen the zombie. Zombie means this type of people who don't have emotions, feelings, or like their body is just moving automatically anywhere. They don't feel any sort of pain or like some different activities are done by these people. Those who become zombie, everything felt surreal. Surreal means underline this word. Surreal means strange, very strange. Everything was looking very strange, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And here author is saying that he wasn't sure what was going to happen with him further because in his life everything was going to be strange. All the security I had known from my old school, my friends, my house, and my cat had all been ripped away. Ripped away is a sort of a phrase to it, means like torn away. Means those friends, house, or cat basically, which he loved much, these were not with him basically right now. Everything is gone from him. Right? When I walked through what used to be my house after that. Now, what we need to see, students, when I walked through what used to be my house, when author is just going in the past and while sitting, just reminding of the house, used to be my house after school that day. That day, basically, when the fire broke out into the house, author was just thinking now about that day, basically what happened. I was shocked to see how much damage there was. And this is saying when he saw the damage, he was shocked, surprised to see what sort of damage is that. Whatever hadn't burned was destroyed by the water and chemicals. You see, the firefighters came there, students. They sprayed some sorts of chemicals and water also. So there were few things which did not burn. These got damaged by the water and the chemical the firefighters sprayed to curb the fire. Right, everyone? So what we understand that firefighters how they just curb or like control over the fire, everything was ruined, everything was burned or destroyed, right? They had used to put out the fire. The only material things not destroyed were the photo albums, and what we get here, only photo albums were there which were not destroyed. Documents and some other personal items that my mother had managed to heroically rescue. You can understand how author's mother rescued the material things, went back in the house and took out all the things. But my cat was gone and my heart ached for her. Ache means like having sort of pain about her, like my cat was not there. Right, everyone? What in the next, basically, there was no time to grieve. Grieve means like showing some sort of pain or dukh. My mother rushed me out of the house. We would go to find a place to live, and I would have to go buy some clothes for school. Because they did not have time, they wanted to make things in a very systematic way so that the things can be taken care properly. Right, everyone? So what we need to do, we need to see whether we can manage this properly or not. Author is saying this, that they had to be in a very hurry or they need to make a rush, right? For purchasing, for finding another living place where they could live. We had to borrow money from my grandparents because there were no credit cards, cash, or even any identification to be able to withdraw money from the bank. So their identity cards or any sort of identity that was completely spoiled. So what they want basically they had to borrow money from their grandparents to purchase things, right? Everything had gone up in smoke and everything was burned down. That way, the rubble basically, the rubble that used to be our house was being cleared of a rot. Rubble means like broken stones or like bricks, small bricks which are broken in small pieces. That's called rubble. So they were just clearing it off. They were cleaning it. Even though we had rented an apartment nearby, then what happened? They took a apartment that was nearby their house. I would go over to watch them clear away debris, hoping that my cat was somewhere to be found. Debris underlines students, which means like sort of like a heap of destroyed things, and that was जिसको हम लोग मलबा भी बोल देते हैं, debris. I kept thinking about her as that vulnerable little kitten in the early morning when I would disturb her and get out of bed. Now you see, the author is just reminding about the situation when he used to disturb her, means the little cat, and get out of bed. She would tag along after me, means she used to get connect with him, climb up my robe and crawl into my pocket. And she used to come into the pocket of the author when it was kitten to fall asleep, and there it used to sleep. I was missing her terribly. And now it was the time when the author was missing the little cat very terribly. Right? It always, it always seems, students, that's enough for today. I've got too much cough.